The Kalthar Dominion ruled through fear and conquest, an empire carved from the ashes of fallen worlds, and at its heart stood supreme warlord Vexor Drun, whose name alone commanded obedience and crushed rebellion, yet within the walls of his fortress, an enemy far more difficult to subdue emerged, his own son, Rax Drun, a youngling born of power but untamed, heir to a legacy of violence, yet uncontrollable, undisciplined. Until she arrived, a human, an outsider. Her name was Ellie Parker. And she had come not with weapons, but with a task most impossible in the galaxy, to tame the future of the Dominion. Ellie Parker knew nothing of galactic politics, but she knew children, unruly, chaotic, defiant. She had faced their kind before, though none scaled, fanged, and armored as the young heirs of the Kalthar Dominion, and yet beneath their alien forms, the same truth lingered. Children needed boundaries, structure, and consequence, and no warlord, no matter how feared, could deny that simple reality. It began in the great hall, Rax wielding a ceremonial blade, his eyes wild with inherited arrogance, his claws sharp, his laughter unrestrained as dignitaries and soldiers alike watched, paralyzed not by respect, but by fear. None dared intervene, none dared oppose the child of the supreme warlord, but Ellie Parker stepped forward, a lone human, dwarfed by the towering reptilian forms surrounding her. Her voice cut through the silence, firm, unyielding. "Put the blade down," she commanded. Rax sneered, baring sharp teeth, his defiance absolute. "You have no power here," he hissed, but Ellie did not falter. Her eyes locked onto his with quiet authority forged not from rank or bloodline, but from experience, from the unwavering resolve of someone who had wrestled chaos into order before. "I have responsibility, that's more than enough," she replied, and with a motion so swift it defied expectation, she snatched the blade from his claws. The room gasped, nobles recoiled, guards stiffened, and in that moment the delicate balance of fear and obedience shattered, replaced by something unfamiliar, respect. Rax stood frozen, his bravado punctured, his arrogance deflated. The assembled crowd held their breath, waiting for Vexor Drun's retribution, but none came, only silence, heavy, expectant. Later that night, Ellie was summoned to the throne chamber. Vexor Drun awaited, his scaled frame coiled like a predator, eyes like molten gold studying her every step. "You defied him," the warlord stated, his voice low and dangerous. "I corrected him," Ellie replied without hesitation. "No one corrects my blood," Vexor growled, but Ellie's expression never wavered. "They should have." The silence that followed pressed against her like gravity, yet she remained unmoved, a lone human in the den of conquerors, and in that defiance, Vexor saw what no other species had possessed: unshakable human resolve. "You have done what 27 others failed to do," Vexor admitted at last. "You have shown him limits, taught him consequence." His eyes narrowed, voice turning cold. "You will not care for one child, you will command them all." The weight of the words settled on Ellie like armor, and so, Ellie Parker, human, outsider, became the caretaker not of one unruly heir, but of the entire palace nursery, a place where the young progeny of warlords, generals, and nobles trained, plotted, and battled, born to rule through violence, heirs to an empire built on blood. They snarled, they clawed, they schemed. Yet Ellie met their aggression not with fear, but with discipline, their chaos with order, their defiance with unwavering consequence. At first, they resisted, fangs bared, claws extended, but Ellie had seen worse. Humanity had survived death worlds, had tamed predators of their own, and in the young Kalthar, Ellie saw only children, armored in arrogance but desperate for guidance. Her methods were not brutal, but firm. Structure replaced anarchy, consequence replaced immunity, and slowly, inevitably, change took root. The nobles watched in disbelief as their wild heirs grew measured. The soldiers whispered of the humans' impossible influence, and Vexer Drune observed the transformation with quiet calculation, for in the eyes of his son, now tempered by restraint, he saw the legacy of his empire preserved. The future heirs, once untouchable and ungovernable, now walked with purpose, their arrogance forged into discipline, their violence shaped by consequence. And at the center of it all, a human stood, unarmed, unafraid, commanding the respect of predators. It did not go unnoticed beyond the palace walls. Whispers spread through the Kalthar Dominion, tales of the human who controlled the heirs, of the outsider whose words tamed the next generation of conquerors, of Ellie Parker, the unassuming architect of the Empire's future. Some feared her, others envied her, but none could deny her authority. Her presence reshaped the Dominion's understanding of power, for where armies failed, where fear faltered, a human's resolve endured. The galaxy had long underestimated humanity, their frailty, their mortality, their lack of natural weapons, but they had overlooked humanity's most dangerous trait, the will to impose order upon chaos, to endure, to overcome. Vexer Drune, conqueror of 6 star systems, knew this now, and in the quiet hours, he pondered the ramifications. She is more dangerous than my armies, he admitted to his advisers, and though they bristled at the thought, none could refute it, for even the fiercest predator cannot escape discipline when wielded by the right hand, and Ellie Parker was that hand. The palace nursery, once a battlefield of ungoverned heirs, now echoed with structure, with respect, with the quiet, simmering promise of a future not born solely of violence, but forged through control. The nobles grumbled, but they saw the results. The younglings of the Dominion no longer wielded their status like weapons. They earned it through conduct, through discipline, through lessons enforced by the human who dared defy the Warlord. Even Rax Drune, once the embodiment of unchecked arrogance, now walked in the shadow of his human mentor, his golden eyes sharp, his posture measured, his authority tempered, and as his father watched, he understood the wisdom of Ellie's presence. She was not merely a caretaker, she was an investment, a safeguard, the human element that even the Dominion's war-hardened legacy could not replicate. Through her, the future of the Empire gained clarity, control, focus, but beyond the palace, beyond the Dominion, the galaxy watched with unease. Other empires, other species, whispered of the human in the Warlord's den, their fears not rooted in her title, but in her impact, for they had all underestimated humanity before, and history had shown the price of that mistake. On distant worlds, alien leaders debated her influence. On battle stations, commanders warned of her quiet power, yet none could intervene. Not yet, for the Dominion stood unified, and its future, for the first time in decades, looked stable, guided not by plasma cannons, but by the unyielding hand of a human. In private, Ellie Parker thought of home, of the colonies scattered across the fringe, of Earth's overlooked place among the stars, and she smiled, for here, in the heart of an empire that once viewed humans as insignificant, she held their future in her hands, and that was far more powerful than any weapon they possessed. The galaxy would learn, as all conquerors eventually did, that the most dangerous species is not always the strongest, the fastest, or the most heavily armed, but the one that refuses to be broken, that imposes order where there was none, that teaches predators to respect consequence, that reshapes the future through quiet, relentless determination. Ellie Parker had come to the Kalthar Dominion as a caretaker. She remained as the unseen force behind its next generation of rulers, and in time they would forget the human's face, but not her influence, for empires fall, armies fade, but discipline, once instilled, outlives them all.